this is Chichi Dagogo Wariso, aka the Storybook Lady, as I like to call myself, aka Blossom Kids Corner, and you are welcome back to another episode of our lovely channel. Thank you for all my returning subscribers. Thank you for everyone who has stopped by, giving us a high five or said hi on the page. We are extremely very grateful. Today we're going to be talking about 8 ways to prevent food wastage. You know, people don't really realize the damage that wasting food causes, but yes, it can actually be prevented because it actually causes more harm than good. So we're going to talk about how to prevent food wastage, what we need to do, what we need to know to prevent food wastage. Food wastage is more serious than people realize. Nearly 1/3 of all the food produced in the world is discarded, which is almost about 1.3 billion metric tons per year of food that is wasted. When food is discarded and taken to dump sites, it produces methane, which is a greenhouse gas that is more potent than carbon dioxide, and it damages the climate. It causes climatic change, it depletes the ozone layer, and it also results in the waste of energy and resources that it took to grow, harvest, produce, package, and transport the food. Okay, so before that food got to you, somebody planted it in his or her farm, tended to the crop, harvested it, processed it, packaged it, and then found a way to get it across. So the more you waste food, you're also wasting the energy, resources, finances that was put into getting that food across to you. The World Resources Institute says that cutting food wastage in half will lower greenhouse gas emission by 1.3 billion metric tons of carbon dioxide equivalent by 2050. I know that might sound like a lot of gibberish to you, but what we're trying to say in essence, environmentally, is that if we're able to cut down half of what we waste in terms of food, we're going to actually reduce the amount of greenhouse gas emission in the atmosphere, right? And we're going to also realize that 24% of water and 4% of agricultural materials, fertilizers, chemicals, and all of that is also lost through food wastage, which amounts to about 45 trillion gallons per year. Okay, so looking at that, that's quite a lot of resources that is being lost simply by wasting that one plate of rice or that eba or that soup instead of reusing it or looking for a way to reconstitute it to make some other meal. Okay, so now we're going to discuss the 8 ways, in my own opinion, to prevent food wastage, effectively reduce food waste at home. This is basically for those of us family people. I'm not talking about industrially, but if we start from home, they say charity begins at home. So if we start from the home front and we build make conscious effort, to avoid food wastage, we will see that it will reverberate across other areas. How do I mean? Avoid buying too much, irrespective of the fact that we want to stock up, but you realize that when you stock up too much, most of it tends to start getting bad if not used in time. Secondly, always make a shopping list. So when you're going shopping, identify the things that you need, not the things you want. Your needs are different from your wants. Your needs are those things that you cannot do without, but your wants are those things that you desire. So instead of just buying impulsively, write a shopping list so that you only go for those things, those basic essentials that you need at that point in time. That way it will be utilized within the set time, and then you can now restock. Organize your fridge or freezer with an acronym I tagged FIFO, first in, first out. Okay, so even if you bought tomatoes, you went to the market, you impulsively bought tomatoes, use the one that was in the freezer first, the one you bought last week or a few weeks back. make sure you utilize that one first before you now use the fresher one, the fresher ones that you just bought. Then fourthly, store food correctly. Now, how do you store food? There are different foods are stored differently. What do I mean? First of all, your fridge or your freezer has to be below 5 degrees Celsius so that it can actually keep food as preserved as possible. Secondly, store food in sealed containers so that when it's sealed and in the freezer, it's airtight, and then it's stored or preserved better. Thirdly, potatoes, tomatoes, garlic, cucumbers, and onions are never to be refrigerated. They should be kept at room temperature because there's the tendency for them to go bad. In the freezer, they will actually freeze up, and then by the time you bring it out, it now thaws and it now goes bad. All right, always transfer leftovers from open cans to plastic containers, like tin tomatoes, canned foods. Basically, when you're done with them, whatever leftover, don't leave them in the can, because it actually the iron starts to rust, and once with that rust, it now decomposes the food. So remove it from the can and put it in a plastic container and put it in the freezer. Then freeze any extra vegetables or fruits to prevent spoilage. Okay, so we know that vegetables and fruits are highly perishable, or when we say perishable, it means that they spoil very quickly. So whatever veggie or fruit that is left over from your meal, make sure you freeze them. That's the only way to keep them for a longer period of time. Then fifth, be familiar with expiry dates. Now, a lot of people just look at expiry dates on the containers and be like, oh, this one is bad, and you toss it away. No, the expiry dates on most foods doesn't mean that they are bad. They are only the sell-by dates, okay? So those expiry dates means that they ought to be sold off between this period and that period. As long as they look, smell, and taste good, that food is fine. So a lot of people waste foods especially packaged foods that they have bought, because they feel, okay, it's past the expiry date, so it should go bad. Those dates are just computer generated dates with a given time frame. That's the shelf life, not the consuming life or time, if you understand what I mean, right? Foodborne diseases are mostly not from expired food, but from mishandling and cross-contamination. So we can't say, oh, he ate expired food. How do you know the food is expired? Maybe the food was exposed, right? The food was opened and exposed, and then it got bad, or it was mishandled, or it was cross-contaminated maybe in the course of processing, in the course of packaging, in the course of preparation, and then that's how most people get foodborne illnesses. Then eat your leftovers as much as you can. You made the food, so if you can't, if you maybe dish too much food, you can reuse it next time. Maybe your lunch can actually serve as your dinner, right? Or you pack it up nicely in such a way that you can actually eat it. Not when maybe you have like a fistful of eba, and maybe somebody just eats like halfway, and then you toss the remaining away. If it's not bad, it's not bad. Seriously, if it's not bad, because we tend to waste a lot of food, right? So if you know you can't eat your leftovers, then just cook enough for one meal. If you know that you can't eat food that is warmed or microwaved, then just make sure you cook and eat up immediately. Just cook enough for one meal. Store leftovers in transparent containers so they don't get forgotten, because most times if you don't store your leftovers properly, people tend to forget that those were leftovers, and they just keep sitting in the freezer, and after some time be like, oh, this food is stale, it's been in the freezer for too long. But if you tidy it up almost the next day or a few days after, then you have succeeded in not wasting that food. 7, adopt an economical serving size. So you should understand your family size and how much food you consume, and know that, okay, for us to eat well, we eat maybe 3 or 4 cups of rice, and don't cook beyond that unless you have visitors or unless you have a need to cook more than that. Okay, maybe you don't want to cook tomorrow, you can maybe cook more, and then whatever that, once you've taken the portion you need, the leftover in the pot, pack it up in the freezer, and learn to tag your plastic containers in the freezer. I do that a lot. So when you, whatever leftover food you have, you tag it, maybe pepper soup. I use masking tape. I love to use masking tape with marker. So you tag it, pepper soup, leftover soup, maybe you put the name of the soup or whatever, so that you don't forget that particular leftover food in the freezer. And then finally, pack your own lunch. What do I mean? Your leftover Sunday rice can actually be your tasty Monday lunch for you and also the kids. So whatever food you left over maybe the night before, if it's not maybe something that you feel your kids can't take to school, like swallow, or basically people don't really like eating swallow at work or in the daytime, but if it was rice, yam, being something that you like, you can eat in the day, whatever food you left over last night, you can also pack it up for the kids for lunch in the school and also for yourself. So these are 8 basic ways that we can adopt to preserve food, okay, so that we don't get to keep throwing food out every time. All right, so if we're able to learn this, we're able to adopt this as part of our lifestyle at home, and become conscious about the fact that we do not want to waste food, then we're going to help reduce the greenhouse gas emission and then save our climate. Okay, thank you everybody. This is Chichi Dagogowari. So I said something sometime last month that this June we're going to do lots of reviews, so please let me know in the comment section what books you want me to review. My own choice was on Disney books. I wanted to review some Disney books. This is my birthday month also, so I wanted to use this to veer off a little from the usual and just let's go back to our book reviews, talk about storybooks, remind ourselves, refresh ourselves of 1 or 2 books. So if you want us to continue to go through with the book review for the rest of the month, please let me know in the comment section. If not, we'll go on with our Disney books. Maybe in the course of the week I will put up a list of Disney books that we're going to review, and also hear your own opinion or what you feel about the book, how you enjoyed reading the book and all of that. So once again, this is Chichi Dagogowari, so aka the Storybook Lady, as I like to call myself, aka Blossom Kids Corner, and I'm signing out.